What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have 7 more British versus American memes. My honest reaction. Before we dive into this, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Let's get right to it.
Hello! Last month I showed you some crazy internet memes all about the United States and Britain and sometimes the stereotypes that we have of each other. In that video I gave my honest reaction to some of the memes that you've sent me over the years, and guess what? This prompted you to send me some more. And so today I'm going to give you my honest reaction on more internet memes about Britain and America. And if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now! In the meantime, let's do it. Well, we sort of pick up from where we left off in part one. This, one of many Ron Swanson...
That's definitely American. That's definitely. Oh, what an American would say. Everything before that was a mistake.
Memes on the internet is of course taken from the TV show Parks and Recreation, in which Ron Swanson famously said, "History began on July the 4th, 1776. Everything before that was a mistake." And just like with the meme at the end of part one, this one gets sent to me every single 4th of July. And, you know, it's obviously meant in good jest, unless it's my wife's cousin Chad who sends it. And I think, you know, I have met Americans for whom the world is just the United States. But I've also met a lot of Americans who are quite interested in British history.
Agreed.
You know, whether it's about historical figures like Elizabeth I or Benny Hill, or events like the plague or the colonization of North America, which I've just realized does involve Americans. The point is, I think that most Americans who talk to me in this way on the 4th of July are just having a bit of banter, just poking fun. At least that's what they tell me. And are you calling them liars?
They're for sure just poking fun. They're for sure just poking. That's all. If they keep sending to you on that July 4th, they're just joking.
Might be lying. Okay, this meme has been everywhere in the past 2 years. Basically, it's saying that Americans and the rest of the English-speaking world pronounce bottle of water as it's written, whereas we, the British, very oddly leave out practically every other consonant and pronounce it as bottle of water. And while memes like this are purposely exaggerated for engagement, I think the time has finally come to set the record straight. First of all, do British people really drop their T's in the middle of words?
Some do, depending on what part of the UK you're from. Some do.
Actually, yes, this is a fairly common phenomenon up and down the country. So if I'm speaking quickly, I might say, "Get the kettle on, love." That's "get the kettle on, love." Except when we do this, we're not merely dropping the T, we're replacing it with a pause. This pause is known in linguistics as a glottal stop. And believe it or not, glottal stops are fairly common in American English, with some speakers pronouncing these words as mountain, curtain, button, mountain, curtain, button, mountain, curtain, button. But back to bottle of water. Do British people really drop their L's in the middle of words? This process, known as L vocalization, is mostly just synonymous with London, where speakers of Cockney and estuary English might say, "Let's play football." And that might explain why when I see this meme, I mentally read it in a Cockney accent. And in case any of this might make my fellow Americans feel all smug and eloquent, I do have 2 final points. Number 1, L vocalization has also been a feature of New York, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia English. And number 2, the vast majority of Americans don't read bottle of water as it's written either. Instead, those T's often become D's, a sound known as a T-flap. Bottle of water. That's real linguistics. So do you have like
I mean, that's facts. Those T's do become D's. I can't argue with that. Bottle of water. Can I get a bottle of water? Bottle. Yeah, it feels like a D.
With the Queen? And the British kid is, do you go to McDonald's with Obama? And here's the thing about this, like, I'd heard this stereotype of Americans before I moved here, and in fact I braced myself for being asked such a question, as preposterous as it is, especially since the Queen is now dead. But I have to report, and I don't know if it's because I just scare people, I've only been asked this once. It was by a chap when I worked in a call centre, and I could have responded with something like the British kid in this meme, but I was was polite about it and just said, oh, not yet, maybe I'll get around to it when I marry into the family. But for the most part, the conversations I've had with Americans who are interested in English culture and all of that, I think there's a recognition. There's no way that I, Lawrence Brown, am magical enough to have sat in the presence of these demigods or whatever they perceive them to be. Why is that? Because you work in a call centre. We have here another tweet, which became a meme. American sports fans like to chant things like, defence, defence. Whereas British sports fans might get together and say something like, all right, lads, I've just worked up a song to the tune of Debussy's Clair de Lune about an opposing player's drunk driving charge. I'll count us off. And what this is saying
That
is
is
that...
exactly how it goes. The American chants are very basic, very simple. While the Brits can legit make a chant about anything, I've heard them make chants up on the spot, and everybody gets in sync somehow. Like it's insane.
In Britain, we can come up with sports chants about just about anything on the fly to whatever tune you want. And it never ceases to amaze me how creative they are. A new player might sign for a football team, and within seconds, it feels like, a section of the stadium has already come up with some pithy collection of rhymes about that player to make him feel welcome. I've not heard something like that in the US. It is, as this person says, usually something along the lines of defense, defense, or USA, or we believe that we will win. So, again, I think that this is high on accuracy, probably 10 out of 10. And sticking to sports, here's a meme that talks about Britain having invented new sports, which we've invented many: cricket, football, rugby. We spread it around the world, so many countries play it, and then those countries get better than us at it, and we end up not winning the trophies. Whereas in the US, you invent a new sport, like American football, which evolved from our rugby, or baseball, or basketball. No one else wants to play it, and you, America, end up being the world champions. Seems like a good way to ensure that you win, except...
That's basically what happens. Yeah, they make a good point. He makes good meme.
Baseball is popular outside of the US. I think it's pretty popular in Japan and I think some other countries. And basketball is. If it wasn't, how on earth did the USA have any opponents at the Olympics? Of course, they wiped the floor with everyone, but that's another story.
But it was
and the idea that British...
I wouldn't say wipe the floor. They beat everybody. But there ain't no floor wiping. Some of them games were battles. That finals versus France, a battle. The game before that against Serbia, a battle.
Teams are bad at the sports that they invented. Yes, that there is some truth to that. We haven't won the World Cup in football since 1966, when I was minus 15. Here we have what is essentially a Drake meme, just without any actual people in the meme. Oh no, it's John Cena. And as you can read, you have gained 40 pounds is a sentence that somebody might say in either country. In Britain, that's a good thing. Because in Britain, firstly, we don't weigh ourselves in pounds. We weigh ourselves in stone. And secondly, pounds is our currency. So if you've gained 40 pounds, you might be able to afford a coffee, maybe, in this economy. This one, it's pretty accurate. I'd have to give this one a 10 out of 10. Aha! Right, so American police in films are always depicted as people that are about to absolutely kick ass. And in British films, apparently, they're depicted as buffoons who are incompetent at their job. I
absolutely love that. I love that. And that's kind of a part of British humor, that self-deprecating humor.
This meme before, and at first you're thinking, yeah, of course, that is exactly it. I've seen Die Hard, and I've also seen Hot Fuzz. But this completely ignores films like Police Academy, which last time I checked is American, and does portray the police like they are complete rubbish. On the other hand, there have been British films, probably starring Jason Statham, where it's more like the top picture. So I don't really know where this comes from.
Anything starring Jason Statham is going to look more like that top picture.
I think that, in Britain, the police are sort of historically seen as quite comedic. Back in the old times, before the 80s, they used to be referred to bobbies on the beat. They would come up to the central character in a story and go, hello, 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 what's all this then? Right? And put on some sort of weird Cockney voice. But in American films, all right, yes, we are used to Bruce Willis or T-1000. He wasn't a real cop, but he was dressed like one. And so that's it. We've done all of the memes out there on this subject. Let me know in the comments if you've ever encountered any of these memes and how seriously you took them. And in the meantime, Here's part 1. You'll watch that video next. Until the next video, goodbye.
What did y'all think of the memes in this video? And do you agree with his assessment of it would be? What I want you guys to tell me in the comment section. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. Check out the next. I'll see y'all.